Okay. Recording's on. I'll quickly recap just that the purpose of this tonight is to cover a couple of issues, but primarily about tryouts. And that is, let's discuss pros and cons of last tryouts that we just finished in the summer and fall, and also going into 2024-25 is discuss openly either summer or fall tryouts and what you'd like to see. And if there's something that the region can do, we certainly want to do that. Let me try to explain, because we've had numerous questions on this part. 2 years ago, we went to what I call getting out of the Judge Judy business. Our legal department, USAV's legal department, had been recommending for 4 or 5 years is that we can't legally dictate anything about tryouts or about holding some players' feet to the fire, making them make payments. Stuff that we used to do, we can't legally do that because we're not legally a partner in your business. And that is an open for a lawsuit. USAV give us several examples of lawsuits across the United States that has taken place, and the consumer or parents won, and they sued the region, the club, and USAV. I think the bulk of it hit the club, but the region was involved in these because we just cannot get into the tryout business of telling people they have to stay at one place, and they can't move, they can't leave. And in mid-season, we can't do that. It's an individual's right to do that. You guys can have a contract, and if somebody decides they want to leave, you could take them to small claims court, but that's the extent of what we can do. Had we prefer something else, obviously, but legally we can't. So I'm gonna stop at that just a second to see if there's questions before we get into tryout stuff from anybody. Put it in the chat, and then Cindy, again, if you'll monitor that, we'll answer it as it comes up. Any questions about our relationship? We've had probably in the last month, we've probably had a half a dozen people leave one club and want to go to another club, and the club had requested or either told the people that they couldn't join another club, and that we endorse that, and we don't. It's not that we don't endorse it, it's just we can't put a sanction on that family to say you can't leave ABC and go to XYZ. They can. We would prefer they work within clubs. Now, if ABC and XYZ got together and decided, hey, we're not going to let Sarah jump, leave one club and go to another, and we'll work together, then y'all can do that. Absolutely. Work with your neighbors. It's just that we can't do that. We can't legally do anything like that. So any questions on that part? Again, if you have some, just put them into the chat, and we'll answer them as we go along. Main purpose, and then we're going to cover a few other things at the end. And while I've got everybody on, I'm going to make a couple of pleas and announcements. For probably 4 or 5 years now, we've been trying to get a high quality coaches clinic to come to South Carolina. Art of Coaching is probably one of the top, if not the top. And we've got them coming to Columbia. I think this date's right, 20 through the 21st. 2 days with some of the top coaches in the U.S. And a tremendous price deal. The first 100 coaches that sign up is only $125. And I think the retail price on that's like close to $400. So when we did surveys to all of you guys, probably probably in the summer, there was a tremendous response and interest in doing that. But I've written several times, and the early discount to register is just this month. I think it's up the 27th. So I am encouraging you, you don't have to pay for your coaches. They can pay for their own, but I would like for you to talk to them and find out if they want to attend. In order to get that, the price for Palmetto Region coaches for 2 days is $175, but for the first 100, we're subsidizing $50 each. But that's just to the 27th of this month, so a couple more weeks. So I highly encourage you to consider that and take this opportunity, because it may be a while before we get another live coaching clinic back. This is well worth it. Great price. So please take advantage of that. Couple of things. Again, let me explain regionals. The first week where we changed to 17s and 18s, we switched them. We had to have 3 facilities in order to get everybody in. I forgot what the number of teams are, but we had to have 3 facilities. We've got the Star Center in Spartanburg, Rock Hill with 18 courts. And then we had requested the West Center at Winthrop and Rock Hill, but they originally told us they couldn't do it. So we got Luke. As you know, Luke's a nice facility, but it does have some problems if it rains, along with some other issues sometimes. So we were a little bit nervous about that. And so Winthrop called us back just I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks ago and said something changed, they could get us in. So that's why we switched that, in order to improve the facility really, and was able to get that in. So with that done, just make sure if you had teams attending, please just reach out to them and make sure they've switched their hotels if they have not done that. And if they need help, have them contact the region and we'll get our staff to work on that. Okay, so Cindy, we got any questions before we jump into tryouts?
Yes. So I'm sorry, my voice is off. So one person asked, in the past, club tryouts have been respectful of school season. Is the region still holding clubs accountable for this format?
Okay, no, we make it clear again is that we can recommend and encourage, which our recommendation has always been not to hold tryouts during school season, which we'll say is the 1st of August. And then 1st of August going forward. Usually August is when their tryouts and practices start. So we say that. So most of the summer tryouts, and you guys will actually need to answer this, most of them from what we can see are done in the June to July range. So that is a no. I do say another one: can players not leaving mid-season be made part of a player contract with the club? I think that Larry, you may want to clarify that, but I think what you're asking is if can you make a contract and say you can't leave mid-season? You can say whatever you want to in a contract. We cannot enforce that. We can't say you can't go to another club, and there's little hope that you can. It's kind of like a non-compete agreement in a business, or that. It's about worth the paper it's written on. You can't enforce it in court. So you may put that, but I don't know. I mean, I don't know how, outside of saying you owe us money, and you would have to take them to small claims court in order to get money if they wouldn't pay you freely. There's nothing we can do to make them stay at one club or go to another club. Cindy, anything else? Oh, Chris, you asked. Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
What's the final decision on being released from Sports Engine Club assignment? Is if the family requests it, then we can assign them to another club. Now, obviously, our preference is that the two clubs, and we always tell them that. When somebody contacts me, the first thing I send them is basically just a pat answer, and that is, do your best, do everything you can to work it out with the club that you're with. If you leave that club and go somewhere else, you just have to notify us and we move it. We can't restrict from them, but from not moving them. If they want to move and they have done it, whatever your contract does, you can legally try to hold that to them, but we can't be a part of that legally, if that makes sense. Cindy, anything else? Okay. All right, folks, tryouts. First, I'd like to hear from some people. Remember, just unmute yourself and speak up. As far as the last season, what problems did you face that you would like to see if we can get resolved? If there's something that we can do as a region to help with, I'd like to hear that. Anybody? Don't be shy. I know there's problems because I heard them every week.
I think this is Tori, Jimmy. I think like you pretty much just stated that you guys can't really get into between clubs if we want to have summer tryouts. I think it's more like you got to talk with your partners, especially with so many clubs in so many different areas. I think that's probably got to be worked out between those clubs. I think the biggest issue is I think some clubs probably go deeper into the club season, like playing AAU. And what does that do to their players and then trying to get them ready for school? That might be some worry. Whereas some clubs don't go that deep, and it helps in payment situations and things of that nature. Like you said before, if we try to, move those trials during the summer, I think it's more to your point. Can we work together to try to adjust some of those? As far as like tryouts and stuff, I think the biggest thing is because we're so close and compact. Once season is over, it takes like we're all kind of waiting. We may give players 2 or 3 days to respond or whatever, or a week or whatever it may be. And then you really can't put your teams together, and you're waiting until that last moment, and we're waiting to pay you guys. It just creates a lot of stress for coaches and directors. So I think to try to help that out, I mean, I would say right before, if clubs are looking to do summer, right before or during the dark period, if you don't have coaches that are coaching high school, would probably be better to try to do it. I know for some of my parents, it would help out because we do a payment plan. So, and you can do fundraisers and things of that nature.
Well, thank you, Tori. In reality, guys, everybody knows this. This is going in my 34th year. The same problems arise every year, year in, year out. And that is everybody's competing, possibly to try to get Sarah Stud. But the reality is other families are kind of looking, every year there's more and more doing multiple tryouts. I'm not sure. I think it's a small percentage now that just goes to one club, signs, and doesn't try out anywhere else, which would be ideal. But everybody's trying to do multiple tryouts, and everybody's waiting around to find out where is so-and-so going to so I can be with my friends. And then we do have clubs that, try to do it 2 days before another club or schedule it right on the same tryout and force the issues. I personally highly encourage you to try to work with your neighbors within a 60-mile radius, if there's any way possible, and try to work together. People's going to go where they want to go. And I've always said, if you do the right thing and provide them bang for their buck, you're going to have people come back. There's always going to be kids that play musical chairs, but What's some other things? What's some other challenges that you face that maybe we can help with?
Jimmy, this is Julie. We are very strong proponents of fall tryouts, not doing tryouts in the summer for multiple reasons. And I will say it's been the last 2 seasons that the summer tryouts have really been prevalent across clubs in the region. And, geographically, we're not fighting for a lot of kids that come from outside of our area. It's mostly kids that live in the Greenwood area, and sometimes within an hour drive. The biggest issue that we ran into this year is the change in the registration process for tournaments. 2 years ago, we registered for what tournaments we thought we were going to do, and that was early on in the process. But we didn't have to pay until after fall tryouts were done, and nobody could pay until after fall tryouts were done. The problem this year is that registration and payments were accepted early before fall tryouts even started. And that created a big issue. And I know you're aware of it. And, you said you were trying to make it fair for the clubs that were having fall tryouts. In my personal opinion, it would be fair if you would go back at the very least to the way you did it a couple of years ago and held off the payment requirement, since that is the determining factor about whether or not a team is accepted into a tournament as the date of payment. I see the pros of, getting your jerseys ordered on time, but we've never had a problem getting our jerseys. There was like that one year with COVID when people were short staffed and whatever, and it was getting it close, but we've never had an issue ordering in November and having them before our first tournament. Payment plans, we still do payment plans. They might be higher payments, but we also send notification out to anybody who's interested in trying out for a club. Here's a fundraiser that we're going to do. Go ahead and do the fundraiser. You can use the money for club, or you don't have to use the money for club. That's on you guys, but there are ways around it. And for me, as a high school coach who uses our high school gym for a facility, I am not willing to use the basically 1 week before, honestly, not willing, not allowed to use the 1 week before our tryouts, because it's a dead week, number one. And number two, these kids, a lot of them play all year long. They've got to have a break. They've got to have some breathing room. They've got to have a chance to spend with their family the time that they lose because they're busy all year playing volleyball for their travel teams. I feel very, very strongly about it. I'm sure I could argue on and on in favor of fall tryouts, but the tournament factor was the one that really killed us this year. And it's never, as we're going into our 10th season as a club, and I've been a director of other clubs before this. It's the first time I've felt the pain of it. So thank you.
Julie, thank you. And that's an excellent point about tournament payments. So let me tell you our view on that. And it's similar to, the summer tryout started in the surrounding regions and kind of filtered into our regions, forcing clubs on the borders to do summer tryouts. And it just kind of continued to filter in like a fire spreading. The same thing is with tournaments. What we're finding is across the nation, especially in the Southeast, we're seeing tournaments open up early September, maybe even earlier than that. So what we're hearing and having the problems with is the reason we went to it is clubs are saying, I need to know if I can get into a region tournament X, because otherwise I've got to sign up for this other one, pay it, and get a secure spot. The reality is, unless something miracle happens, facilities are limited. Volleyball is growing, is the number one growth in indoor sports in the United States, with boys coming along also. So the reality is that everybody that's hosting tournaments are seeking spaces indoors and securing those, and we're finding that those tournaments fill up quickly, extremely quickly, and which is exactly what happened here in our region. So we're doing this more from the standpoint that we're trying to appease the clubs, and we understand that's a disadvantage to the ones that are trying out in the fall because you're guessing what you're gonna have. So it is a catch-22, but that's the rationale behind why we moved to an early tryout, is because we were also competing with tournaments outside the region. Someone else.
Jamie, can I say something? Yeah. So I'm definitely in agreement with what Julie was saying. For the smaller clubs, it's just harder. Greg and I basically had to come out of pocket to pay for tournaments and to pay for jerseys, just because we were waiting on, we had to come out of pocket to pay for tournaments because we were just we didn't know exactly what was going on. And being a smaller club, we have a lot of moving parts, but we just had to come out of pocket and then reimburse ourselves when everybody committed. So I think that's something that, I guess, it is what it is. If you're going to do it, you're going to do it. That's fine. If that's the way things are going, is that something that's going to be consistent and that we just need to plan for, whether we do fall or summer tryouts?
Amber, certainly, we've heard from a number this year, and that's most likely the way it will be.
Okay.
And because of the reason I'm saying is that you got clubs.
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah, you got clubs that are trying to get into tournaments, and they've got to, those fill up
Sure.
quickly, and so we're trying to do that. Now, I have worked with a few clubs, if it's financial reasons, is to try to get them into a spot. And let me try to say this: as long as the tournament is not close to full, I'm not concerned with securing a spot. Everybody knows
Right.
I sent you an email weekly and sometimes twice.
Oh, sure. Yeah. No, you were great communicating for
Yeah,
sure.
saying, hey, here's where it stands. If it got close
Right.
and somebody said, we just don't have the money, region might
Yeah.
do something to help region teams. No, not out of region, but region teams.
Right. No, I
And
got
we
you.
may continue to do that. But I would say, because of the way volleyball is moving across the nation, we're almost forced to do something like this. So hope that.
I got you. Okay.
Yeah.
I got you. Thank you, Jimmy.
I also agree with everything that everybody said. I do also just want to say, though, that if it is going to continue this way, the way that the refund policy is currently is helpful, and we need to stay that like basically that we can request refunds for tournament drops can't come before team tryout finalizations are over. So if you're asking clubs to continue to front money for entries, then at least maintaining the refund policy the way that it is now, so that we can get full refunds for drops.
Jessica, a very good question. I meant to bring that up, and thank you for bringing it up. Yes, I think we made it clear this year is that what I was trying to communicate to clubs is, okay, here's tournament A, C, and F that are 95% full. So if you can make a payment on it so you secure your spot. Now, if that team doesn't make in the fall, and it's a whole lot more work on us, because we had, 20% of the teams that had registered early drop because the team didn't make. And so we completely give a refund, and we absolutely would do that. We're not going to hold anybody's feet to the fire over something like this, where we're trying to get them in, get them secured in the tournaments that they want to attend that are close to being full, and securing that spot. But yes, it still would be that way.
Okay. And the reason I say it is because there were a couple of tournaments that we looked at, one in particular in Florida, that I think it didn't matter when you asked for a refund, you were not getting any more than 50%.
Yes.
And so to ask people to register in July and then tell them that you're not going to get more than 50% back, I think is that's irresponsible. But
and obviously, we have no control of out of region tournaments, but we would absolutely continue to support what we're doing. And that's, once your team's determined, We just ask that, and that's probably in the mid to late November range. Tell us one way or another. I literally have still had, up until last week, I probably had, I don't know, 4 or 5 teams in there that, oh, we never made it and we forgot to tell you. And I'm sorry if you're one of those people, sorry, but that's, it's not like I didn't email you to death and remind you. All right, what else we got? Those are good points right there.
There's a couple more questions. One was, any suggestion on getting interest in small towns and getting those athletes aware of new clubs? Did you see that?
Yeah, hadn't any suggestion. Okay. Well, this year, at least for the ones that the clubs that registered early, like in the summertime or fall, we did some paid social media ads, and we're going to continue to do that. Probably enhance it more in 2020 or this year going into 25. So yes, we do that, and we do promote via email, at least to the membership that we have on record. Hey, here's a club directory and here's where they live. This year there was supposed to have been a map created, but that didn't get created. That has little stars of where everybody is. But that's on the agenda for next year. But yes, we certainly can promote that. I'll make a note of that. What else was it, Cindy? All right, somebody else on tryouts. Been some good questions. Yeah.
Oh, same questions about the tryouts and registrations and tournaments. It was same questions as earlier.
Oh, okay. So we've answered them.
No, you didn't. There's my question that I put on that says, is there a way to hold off until mid-November to accept non-region teams? That wasn't brought up yet.
Oh, gotcha.
Julie, no. What we do is that's a complex question, because in-region teams like to have other competition other than the competition in their region. So we want to encourage out-of-region teams to do it. What we will do is what I just mentioned earlier, is that we'll notify you if a specific tournament is getting full, and then we notify you, hey, either pay it, or if you don't have the funds, period, contact me personally, and I'll see what I can do to help you get a secure spot, if that makes sense. So we want to help in-region teams. We certainly won't do that for out-of-region teams, but if out-of-region pays or registers and pays, then they get a spot. We're just monitoring when a tournament gets close to full and keep you aware of it. Does that help, Julie, or answer?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay. What else, guys? What other issues? I want to get into a little bit more on summer tryouts and fall tryouts, but any specific issues from last year during tryouts that you would like to see, if there's any remedy to problems that we've incurred?
Leslie asked, what's the average percentage of larger region tournament registrations from non-region clubs?
Leslie, I actually don't know that. I'm going to take a guess of 20 to 25%, and it's entirely based on the tournament itself. Our larger multi-day tournaments get a higher out-of-region registration than the one-day. So I can certainly will look that up, and I can send it out in a future newsletter It's not hard to figure out. It'd be easy to do, but somewhere in the 25% off the top of my head, looking at it on a regular basis. And I will say this, my goal and the region's goal is to get to nice facilities. Let me say that I'm working with, see, 1, 2, 3, 4 cities or counties right now that have got drawn up plans to build a facility. Now, not all of those are a Rock Hill Sports Center. Most of them are in the, 6 to 8 or 10 court areas. 2 things I want to say is, one is if you're somebody in your county or city that you know of is doing something, notify me, because we want to try to help them with what to do, especially build it from a volleyball standpoint, but we also offer them prices for equipment at our cost through our wholesale contracts, and it helps them. But our goal is to get into quality facilities as we go into the future. That's why we have so many at Rock Hill or like Myrtle Beach, Charleston. We're looking to get into those nice facilities. And as those grow in South Carolina or in our region, we will utilize them to have the tournaments there. Any other issues that anybody wants to mention about tryouts that you incurred last year that the region needs to consider to see if there's anything we can do to assist in tryouts problems?
Jimmy, I'm feeling like a giraffe tonight, sticking my neck out.
Well, speaking up,
talking.
I'm sure there's other ones thinking
Sorry.
about it. Yeah.
No, and I don't think there's anything you can really do. It's just something that I think needs to be addressed. There are a lot of clubs that have both spring and sorry, not spring, summer and fall tryouts.
Yeah.
We're gonna get a first look in the summer, but then we want you to come back and we'll put you on a team in the fall. I just feel like we need to do what's in the best interest of the athletes, and dragging them along, stringing them out like that is not cool. I saw personally several athletes that went through it. And one, again, is that you already mentioned, waiting until your neighbor assigns their tryout dates and then undercutting it by a week and insisting that people, have 72 hours to commit, and they don't even have a chance to go to another club's tryouts. You've always talked about playing fair in the sandbox. I think I've heard that from you a lot over the past several years. And there's not, as you said, much that the region can do, but people need to start like having just nicer, kinder, more ethical business practices, I think, and stop making it hard for these kids to make decisions that are in the best interest of them and their families. My club is not always going to be the one that people choose, and I'm fine with that. We give them a chance to choose it if they're interested. I've had people sign up to try out and then be like, oh, sorry, can't come because I already had to commit to this other club because they told me I wouldn't have a spot if I didn't commit. Like, it's just not the way that I choose to do business. And I wish that other people would be a little bit more caring of our members in their business procedures. Thank you.
Julie,
I just want to applaud you. Agree 100%.
yeah. And I think the majority of you on tonight probably echo that. Before I either hit a Mack truck or God calls me home, one of my top goals is I wish we could get back to the years that we said, okay, tryouts started at this date and you end at this date and everybody has a signing date, but we can't, unfortunately, there's legal grounds. But I wish we could. I think we have a little under 70 clubs now. I wish we could have all 70 say, we will agree in our region to do this. But here's the problem that I see. I mean, that's the dream. But the problem is, okay, right outside of North Carolina boundary or right over the line of Georgia, so-and-so's doing it, and we've got kids trying out for them, and they're not abiding by region rules. That's what happened originally. It just filters down. And so I'll use North Carolina as an example. So Charlotte starts it and it drops down to Rock Hill, and then Rock Hill goes to Columbia. Columbia goes down to Myrtle Beach and over to upstate and all the way down to Charleston. So it just is a ongoing problem of you're having to deal with exactly what Jessica and Julie's talking about, competition. Ideally, I wish we could say, work with your neighbors and agree to do the right thing and let kids go where they end up. Don't try to trick them into going to one club by giving them deadlines. But, we could have we have all 70 clubs agree and 2 of them disagree, and throws a whole, can of worms into it. There's not a good answer. There's not one. I'm afraid that, Julie, you said that most clubs, to my knowledge, somebody correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not sure if anybody's doing this, but I think Lake Murray's the only one that did a summer tryout and did not do a fall tryout. And probably because of that, and Sue or Katie's not on tonight, but I think they can only hold X number of teams and X number of players, and they just say, hey, once I've got it, this is who we're taking. But I think most everybody else in the real world of volleyball has a summer tryout. I don't know what they tell them in the summer. If you've made a team or you just made our club and we'll put you on a team, but they also do a fall tryout, which I think is almost a necessity. But other comments or questions? I'd be interested if anybody else does a summer tryout and does not do a fall tryout.
Jimmy, a question was from Janie. She said, big issue in Charleston isn't the deadline. It's the one club that requires a ridiculous signing fee of $500 or more, then lets kids go other tryouts, but $500 and non-refundable. I'm sorry, my voice is terrible.
That's okay. Well, I can't imagine the parents saying, I'm going to do that. I don't know. If the parent's willing to pay that, then bless their hearts. Do I think it's right? No, but I'm not the one running the club. They may have their reasons behind it. I don't know, but there's more and more, you say this nicely, probably unethical things that are done for the sake of competition, but it's competition. And by far, I'll guarantee you, this is, I would say everybody would agree, is the most stressful part of volleyball is during that tryouts for everybody. Other questions or comments about that? All right, let's get to just a couple other things. Summer tryouts. Again, we will support whatever you do, whatever you decide to do. I can only tell you the facts, and that is most of the nation's going to that. And some of them are doing weird times, but most of them are in the late June to July, because now you've got AAUs running through most of June, and then USAV going early part of July. So there's a small window there if you're trying to get it in before tryouts start in high school. Some people say, let's give the kids a break. Well, you're going to give them a break no matter when you do the tryout, because you're either doing the tryout in the summer or the fall or both, which, does, I would, hopefully nobody's doing it during high school season and nobody's pressuring during high school season, but that may be happening. But I would be interested is if there's anything that you would like to see the region consider for considering tryouts in the summer and or fall for this coming season.
just to let you know, there are, I can't name any specific clubs. I just know that there are some clubs that did have it during high school season. And what I consider high school season is from the first date and the end of July that we're allowed to have tryouts and practice. And at least in South Carolina, I don't know if because we only have one or two clubs in Georgia, one maybe. Anyway, so. But yeah, there were several. I had players that would finish practice for me and then go to a tryout session in Greenville or
Yeah.
elsewhere to see if they made that team, or it would be callbacks or something like that. But that's why I said it's not fair to the kids to do that to them.
Well, I would agree. I do strongly believe that we should not challenge the high school programs, coaches, programs, schools. And I would just say, I mean, for years, we've tried to develop a good relationship, which I think we do have a good relationship with the South Carolina High School League. But I can tell you, I doubt coaches, and many of you are school coaches, middle school or high school. I would say that you're probably not happy if your players are trying out during the season because you want them to focus on your school season. Other thoughts? And there's not much I can do with that outside of asking the clubs not to do it and the high school coaches. I mean, the high school coaches could probably tell them, don't do it, but I don't know how much they'd, whether a kid would do that or not. But I hope if you are doing that, I hope you would rethink that and stay out of school season.
Jimmy, someone asked, what period actually constitutes summer tryouts?
There's not one as far as the official season for us. What I would say is ideally it'd be in July because that's past the national tournaments. Now, some people might do it in June because if you've got most of your kids are club players and they're not participating with a club that's going to AAUs or USAV nationals, then it's a moot point. They're done with their season. And by far, I say by far, probably 60% of our players, some 7,000 players in South Carolina, end their season early spring, April. And those teams do not go beyond that. But there are teams, 35, 40% that continue on and do nationals. So we have no rules. I'm just saying from a volleyball etiquette and courtesy standpoint, please try to stay in the July timeframe. But again, we don't control that. What else, folks? All right, let me give you a couple of bits of just news information, and then if you've got some other questions, I'll stay on to answer those as long as we need to. And we can go back to tryouts, whatever you want to do while you're thinking about that. Two things new that we are doing this year, or at least two things. One is our high performance. We got one tryout left that's March 1st in Rock Hill, Friday night. We encourage your kids the good kids that you've got some quality kids come up and participate in that. But this year, I think that went out today in the director's desk, is we are allowing directors to refer or recommend a player within your club or players. And you would need to email me and request a file. We'd send you a file. Now, the only thing we ask is that these are truly top players, players that are probably, you should be playing in the power division. They're definitely quality players, maybe the top 20% in the region. We did last year have a truly impressive coaching staff of D1, D2 college coaches, and I thought was a great one day camp. I heard not one not one person in all the surveys and questions we did that said, because we did have a few club coaches in there that was helping the college coaches, but I had not one of them say, oh, so-and-so wanted me to come try out for them. Not one. That's one of our rules, strict rules, that club is not to be mentioned. This is truly training the top players in the region to just be better. So if you're interested in referring some of your players, this is good. And then from there, we will recommend the top players out of HP to the new national developmental program that the USAV is putting on. That also coming, that's the camp, by the way, is June 28th. Now I understand that interferes with, I think, the 17s at AAUs. I think they either finish up that day or something like that, but it's difficult to find a big facility in the June timeframe that'll work. So we got Rock Hill for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, June 28th, 9th, and 30th. So Friday is the HP camp. Saturday is something new. It's going to be an all-region tournament for all-region players, and you'll hear more about that. We're trying to celebrate the all-region players that'll be nominated from all teams. There'll be different levels, obviously a club and a power open level, but it still will be very good and have good exposure. All right, before we close, let me see if there's anything else that you guys have got concerned with concerning summer tryouts. Any questions? I'll finish with my comment unless somebody's got a question, is that we certainly, again, I want to make sure everybody understands, we will support you whatever you do, summer or fall or whatever. We do just ask, out of respect and encouragement, try to work with your neighbors that are within a 60-mile radius to do what's best for everybody there. And we also just, work, try to eliminate problems and do stuff that'll encourage kids to not go to. In other words, there are some, unfortunately, decisions made by some clubs that try to keep players from going somewhere else to try out. And you know what I'm talking about. So we certainly would encourage you not to do that. I always, again, will say, you do the right thing, have quality coaching, give people bang for their buck, and you'll keep the majority and grow. You'll never keep everybody 100% of the time. What else? Anything else? Any other questions or anything that you've got? Glad to help you. Now's the time to ask some questions.
Jimmy, in the chat, someone asked, can you review the region's rules for boys on girls teams?
Oh, yeah. Yep. Well, one of my big goals before I retired, or before I retire, I don't know when that'll be, is to get boys. And we finally got boys started growing. We are fourth in the entire United States in growth in girls and third in boys growth percentage. So we're doing some things that we normally would not do, but the only time that boys can play with girls or unisex is we are considering 13 and down. Now this year, I think there was one or two 14-year-olds, but in order for them to be able to play, they had to send in a video and us watch them to make sure their skill level was truly developmental or beginner. And that's, I think there's just one team that's a 13-year-old team now that was playing with girls, and they were fairly developmental skilled. Other than that, there's no older ages playing with girls. They're all in. This year, the only thing we had was 16s and 18s division, and one 14s team or registered 14s, but they were really 12 or 9, 10, 11, 12-year-olds. I think they had 1 14 on the group. So there's no plan to change that going into the future. Oh, and by the way, if most of you, whoever's got boys teams, if you've got qualify as a new team, meaning 75% of the players were new on the roster, have not played USAV before, you need to get in touch with me because there is region grant money that we're going to give you. We mentioned that early in the season, but just note that and send me an email or something. I'll send you what I need from you.
And Jimmy,
Yeah.
what are the rules around recruitment from other clubs? We have clubs in our area that actively recruit, emails, calls. Some teams are involved in the region, some are not. What are the rules around that?
It's not a rule from the region because that goes back to just getting out of the Judge Judy business. It certainly is not volleyball etiquette, and you're doing something that we would prefer you not do, and you certainly would not want it done to you. So I would just ask you not do that unless you want to contact the club that they're playing with and asking, hey, can Sally's contacted us. Do you mind if she plays with us if you release her? Now, you can say to Sally, we're not going to release you, but that doesn't hold water. I mean, there's nothing you can do to hold her feet or their family to the fire.
Yeah, I'm sorry. So actually during tryouts. So for example, last year we had a situation where one club in our area was calling and actually recruiting girls from club members that were with us in the past and that were going to come back with us again. And so that kind of actually during that whole process, there's nothing that can be done.
No.
Okay.
It's I would consider open season. They're promoting, clubs promote, some of them just promote social media, send an email out, say something to them at a game. Some of them call, some of them have parents call, have coaches call. There's nothing in our rules that prohibits that. Yeah. It's, again, very stressful time. And all you can do is run your business the best you can, and hopefully the majority of people will stay if they like it. Everybody knows that.
Jimmy, I'll raise this again because I know some people have mentioned it in the past with the sort of new Wild West, is that the only thing that has been discussed is sort of a group of clubs that feel strongly about it, developing a code of conduct that we all are going to agree to, and then putting that someplace where families can have it so that it's not enforceable, but at least
Yes.
it's out there of what we all agree to as to what how we're going to operate.
Jessica, great point, and I meant to bring this up, is that the region certainly would encourage and assist in getting any area together to discuss that, whether it's in person or Zoom call, and encourage them to do that. And we would assist in that and promote that statewide. We'd ideally, in my dream world, we'd get all 70 clubs to say, okay, we all agree on X, Y, and Z, and we'll do it. And we honor that. But all it takes is 1 or 2 people to break it, and then the Wild West flows back in. But I'd say now is the time. Summer's going to be here in a hop, skip, and a jump. So now's the time to be talking to your neighbors to see if that can happen. If there's enough people interested, we certainly will promote it and encourage that from the region standpoint, and communicate that with parents. And hopefully that etiquette goes a long way with parents, maybe. Anything else, folks? All right. Well, with that said, it's 9 o'clock. So we've did our hour.
Jimmy, I was just going to say real quick, thanks for the things you're doing to try to get exposure to the athletes. Now that my girl, she's 14 and she's really it just takes a different meaning. So I appreciate the things that you're doing to try to, get them exposure and stuff. It's neat to watch.
Yeah. And I'll say I think you guys see this, the surveys that we do region wide, by far, probably 80% plus, which is amazing, are satisfied with their club season. Really is. I've probably, the complaints this year is down from, and it may be because they know that we're out of the Judge Judy business, but the complaint that we used to get, I mean, I would get dozens of calls a week is my kid didn't get playing time. I don't like to coach. She rolled her eyes at me. I'm sick of it, blah, 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 blah. But those complaints are down. So the majority of you are doing a good job. And I hope and pray that you realize players and parents are our customers. They are paying. It's not like college where you can control them. They are paying to get a service. And I think the majority of you are providing that service and a good service. And we want them to have a good experience. I've been in it long enough. I had 3 daughters, all have lifetime friends from volleyball. To this day, still have very close friends from their volleyball experience. I hope you provide that to your members. What else we got, folks? Okie dokie. Thank you very much. I hope everybody's gets a day off tomorrow. I don't, but you probably do. And enjoy your day. I'm here. If you need me, just don't call me at this time of the night. Enjoy the rest of this week. And if there's anything I can do to help, let me know. Otherwise, if you have questions, I'll be on for a few minutes. Welcome to ask me privately or whoever's left on. I'll be on.
Hey, Jimmy, this is Larry.
Hey, Larry.
Hey, I posted a question earlier, but I was wondering, is there time coming in the future where we're going to go to exclusively using the AES rosters and as opposed to the USAV ones in Sports Engine?
Not unless something changes, because AES, it's a little complicated, but it's a good question. Is the only thing that tells us that they are a true member is Sports Engine.
Okay.
And what we have to do, I know people say, oh, you got the roster police after us. We did relax it this year, but we've had some threatened lawsuits because a kid was not a member, got hurt, and the lawyer contacted us. And we have to show we checked it. So an AES roster is basically whoever you want to put on the roster. They may or may not be a member.
Okay. I wanted to be sure of that because I know the AES roster won't allow you to have waivered players on the roster,
Correct.
be they younger or older.
Correct.
And that was a concern. Okay. I appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else? Otherwise, I'm going to close it out. Anybody else got questions?
Jimmy, I sent you a chat earlier about MVP. We'll get our coaches registered for art of coaching probably tomorrow.
Okay,
I think we're going to have around 10.
Great. And then just use that direct link and go in. Anything above 6, you can use that direct link and go straight in there.
Okay.
And then discount it, and then send me the receipt, and I'll give you the extra $50.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay. Cindy, I hope you get feeling better.
Thank you. It's just my voice.
Okay. Good night, everybody.